Hi, I'm Laura McCracken, back at Merchant Payment Ecosystems again in the Marlene Dietrich bar here in Berlin. And I found another victim. We've got Ugnė Buračienė she's the CEO, global CEO for payabl.
Yep.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much. Very glad to be here.
This is another episode of Payment Provocateurs. So the idea is I'm going to ask you to draw a card and tell me a little bit. It's a kind of a debate topic.
All right.
But before I do that, I just wanted to find out a little bit about why are you here? What brought you to Merchant Payment Ecosystem?
Well, first of all, it's a good event, and there's a lot of people here, and a lot of relevant stakeholders as well. And it's a neat event because it's not overly big, and it allows you to really network and to be close in contact with everyone that you want. And it's good for industry news, and it's good for getting to know your clients, and also to meeting new people as well, and also partnerships, which is also really important. So for us, it's kind of a very varied event, because we get to do all of the things that are important for the company in terms of our marketing campaigns, and also just meeting the right people here, which is important.
Exactly. And we talk a lot about customer.
We do.
So I'm curious to hear from your perspective. What are customers complaining about these days?
I think they complain about a lot of things in general, but what I'm seeing specifically with our clients as well at payabl, I think there's a lot of fragmentation in terms of the actual payment systems and payment options as well, and it's a very complex environment when the merchants are operating globally and trying transact globally. So this fragmentation and part where you have to integrate all of the different providers, and it turns out into being a very big task for the merchants. I think merchants are still struggling there. So having the right providers who help them cover those areas and those markets that they operate, I think is really important. And of course, all of the other things are still important. Security, they worry a lot about, and they want to make sure that that they offer all of the right payment options for their clients and have the best seamless customer experience, right? The more seamless experience you have on the checkout, the better it is for the conversion, and that's what they're basically aiming at, right? Every single merchant wants to have a great conversion, and they don't want to ultimately the cart to be abandoned. We had a great panel discussion yesterday in one of the events, and Douglas, a huge retailer of cosmetics, was saying that people are so impatient that in the store, if they have to wait more than 4 minutes, they leave and they don't buy the goods. So imagine what happens if you have a very complex checkout experience, and maybe too many steps, maybe not the right payment options. So the dropout can be like 40-45% from so that's huge numbers for anyone. So I think bottom line is, I think that still is the most important thing for any merchant, right? Because you're looking at to being able to accept payments and to not deter from clients from paying, right? So ultimately, that's what us and many other players here are trying to help to resolve, and I think we're doing a great job at it. But you really need to understand the landscape, and you need to understand what are the reasons for this as well.
I've been there. I think my attention span's even shorter. I think for me it's like 2 minutes. I'm out of there.
Exactly. And it's exactly the same for me. Like if I will see a queue in the shop, I will just go and turn around. And it's just that I didn't realize that it actually happens on such a large scale. Actually, people are really impatient. I even thought that maybe it's a demographic thing, but actually it's not. It's just people hate to queue, and then hate to be in a complex situation where they have too many steps, and also if security is not there and the trust is not there. So if there's suddenly a payment option or something goes wrong at the checkout and they're like not comfortable with it, they will just not go ahead, right? So it's crazy when you think about it, but and also because it happens when you're not there. So you're not with the client. At least in the store, you can have some sort of impact, on that journey. Online, you have to rely.
Online's even worse.
Exactly, because there's no personal touch or someone talking to you or anything like that. So it's all left to the right choices at the checkout, whatever the payment options are, and also making it a seamless user experience and a seamless checkout for the client. Ultimately, that's everyone's goal, right?
Exactly.
We want to give that to the merchants, and the merchants want that because they want to sell their goods or services, whatever they are, right?
Okay, so you talk a lot about the problems. Now, what about exciting solutions? Have you seen anything that actually excites you in terms of new payment technologies?
Okay, I'm going to be really boring one. I have to say that there's a lot of talk about what's coming and what the future might look like for payments. And we had a great panel discussion today as well in the morning, opening actually MPE with Dave Birch and the other panelists. And the talk was around AI and chatbots and how that will
that's
change.
not boring.
It's not boring, but the more you talk about it, it's like, okay, the chatbot will I will have my own identity, electronic identity embedded, and the chatbot can go and buy things and negotiate, with another chatbot and complete, a transaction. All sounds fantastic when you think about it, especially for people who don't want to do anything with. But that's the thing. So we went from sort of exciting and wow, but that changes. When you think about it, that changed marketing to consumers. How does that look like? Who do you market? You don't longer market, to the end user. You're marketing to a chatbot that is ultimately defining the decision completely differently than a human being, right? More data, more all of this kind of stuff. And then you come to the fact, okay, but how dangerous it is. What if someone, gets a hold of that? What if, someone breaks the keys, and can use that, information? So we have so much potential and so much interest in all of that, but we have so many unknowns that can be really treacherous for all of the ecosystem, for the merchant, for the end user, and for us as a payment service provider. So I look at it very cautiously. I'm really looking forward to it. It sounds, exciting, but also I think what we should still be doing, and we're still doing, is just not reinventing the wheel, but really fixing the things that are not working right now, right? We still have a long way to go, and I think there are still many improvements that we can do in the current, payment landscape, and then we can slowly sort of, come into this new world of AI and chatbots and, how everything, works, which, exciting as it is, I think we're not there yet, but it's definitely something that will come up sometime in the future.
So what I'm hearing is we're going to have a lot more MPE sessions over the next couple years.
Sure.
We're not going to be lacking any work.
No. It's going to be, I think, and I think it's also people like to hear it because it's kind of a controversial debate in a way. But as I mentioned, okay, that's fun and exciting, but we still have to focus on making sure that everything else works, right?
I think I have an AI topic in here. Let's see what you pull.
Hopefully
Let's see what you pull. Hopefully, if you get AI, I'm putting it back in.
King is always good. So cross-border payments, solve problem or endless headache?
Cross-border payments, problem solved or endless headache? What do you think?
I think for the time being, I think it's still an endless headache. I think from all of the parties involved. I think there's a lot of push to make it better and to make it easier, transact, for cross-border. But even if you look at Europe, even Europe is fragmented. You have so many payment options, in different countries, different preferences from different, users. So whether we're moving the right direction, I think, as again, we have a lot of things, to polish off and to move in the direction of making, faster, less expensive, and less treacherous, for all of the chain. But are we there yet? I don't think so. I think there's some maybe prospects that could maybe disrupt that in the near future. But on the rails, on the current existing rails that exists, I think it's difficult to say that the problem is solved. I think by no means it's solved. I think it's just we're trying to solve it still.
Which country is the most challenging to get payments from?
Look, I think any country that you're transacting cross-border is challenging, but if you look at countries who have some sort of government controls or cash controls, that's a particularly difficult country. So if a merchant is transacting, I don't know, Argentina, there is currency controls, right? So you have a different kind of layers of issues that you can have in those, countries. But the main problem with moving funds in general is the cost of it, right?
Yeah.
So anytime money has to move, and it has to move cross-border, and it has to move different currencies, you're incurring a cost, right? That's why a lot of trade deals are also made fixating on the currency, right? So you don't have the fluctuation, for example, of that, right? And in the e-commerce space, clients are accepting payments globally. They're, maybe they're based in Europe and they're selling, to Brazil, or maybe they're selling, to United States, right? So we have a conversion element, and also we have funds, moving, from one location to another, which is a very expensive thing on its own. So the idea of it, in my view, is the less the money moves, the better, in a way, because we don't really have another better option, right? So, but it's also having providers that are well integrated and also are transparent in what they are offering, and also in their fees is also very important, right? So at least if you have to make those transactions, you can make it knowing exactly what you're paying for and how that will impact, your bottom line.
Yeah, very good. Last question.
All right.
Do you think blockchain is going to be the panacea for, or like stable coins or global digital currency? Is that going to be the panacea to help with cross-border payments?
I will say up front, I'm not bullish for crypto.
Yeah.
I'm not. But I think blockchain has a place, and I think done in the right way with the support from good regulatory environment as well, I think it really truly has the potential to be the answer to some of the problems that we have at the moment. Is it already happening? In small proportions, maybe yes. In terms of B2B payments, we discussed that there's some stable coin, clear sort of a winner in that, right? But if you look proportion, it's still a very small amount, right? But we are going that direction, right? The regulation is moving. There's movement in the other, countries as well that are pro crypto.
The Trump meme coin.
You said it. I didn't say anything. I try not to mention his name if I really can. So I think ultimately we will see that it will grow into something better for everybody. But also a valid point is that a lot of, if you look at certain businesses who are well equipped and know, about crypto and their usage and stable coins, there's a huge proportion of merchants and users that don't care any of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think the mark is still quite wide, right?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you. It's been nice. I could talk for hours. Let's just raise a glass to 𝗪𝘆𝗯𝗪𝘂 and to payabl.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.